our wrists to begin with, guys. So just a nice big circle for the shoulders around the wrists, just pushing through the floor. So just drawing the biggest circle you can. Slowly start to tip your shoulders forwards over your fingers. And then let's change direction back the other way. All right, and then from there, just some first knuckle push-ups, folding through the hands and just pressing those fingers into the floor. So just lifting the heel of the hand up, and we'll just go for 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, I can't. Yeah, 5, 4. Thanks, though. I'll organise it for next week. 2, and 1. And then, guys, let's spin the fingers back towards the knees, and we'll just rock forwards and backwards. So just rocking in and out of that stretch. All right, and then from there, just come up to kneeling and just circle, interlace the fingers and just roll off your wrists a few times. A few nice big circles. All right, and then from there, guys, back onto 2 fists, palms facing in. And we'll just gently rock to the back of one hand, the other hand, and then close and close. So we're just limbering through that the other way now. Just back to the hands. All right, and then from there, again, just coming up, interlacing the fingers, just rolling off the wrists. And then we'll warm up our ankles a little bit. So just again, back onto your hands and knees and just drawing some big circles with the toe. So just working the biggest circle you can. And then changing direction back the other way. Probably feels quite nice because everyone is like walking a lot at the moment. So make sure to look after our feet, guys. Nice big circles. All right, and then as always, we'll just tuck the toe under, sit back onto your heel, untuck the toes, and we're just going to alternate between those 2 positions. Now, if you want to lift the knees off the floor, you can, and stretch out the front of the ankle a little bit more. Just a couple more of those. All right, and then from there, let's come up to a high kneeling position. I just want you to form a fist, pull your shoulders down away from your ears, and we're just going to work some flexion extension of the neck, the chin to chest, and then gaze tracks back. So just working through, lifting the chin up towards the sky as you take your head backwards. So this should just feel kind of like a free movement. And again, it's just about warming up the joints versus getting too much of a stretch. And then we're going to go into rotation. So come back to the center, look over your right shoulder, center, and then over the left. Just one way and then back the other way. All right, and then we'll come back to the center. We'll then just go lateral flexion. So ear to shoulder, center, and then the other side. So let's just work through that lateral flexion, keeping the shoulders down away from your ears. And then, as always, guys, we put all of that together. So from the center, go chin to chest. We'll rotate your head to the side. Take your side bend, draw a circle backwards with your head into side bend, rotation, chin to chest, and head up. And then back the other way. And we're just working in one direction and then the other way. All right, so just doing a couple more of these. Nice big circle around. Alrighty, so again, guys, just finishing the one that you're on, back and around to the start. And then let's make our way back onto our hands and knees and just go through some cat-cow. So you're just going to round through your spine, tuck your chin, tuck your tail. Hands really tilt your pelvis, ribcage presses down, looking up. Now, if it isn't very neck friendly for you to look up, you can just look forwards, okay? So just work through whatever is best for you. We are just trying to take our spine through that flexion and extension as best we can. So just do a couple of those. So as always, just connecting with the breathing, nice deep breath in as you look up. Exhale as you tuck your chin, tuck your tail. And then from here, we'll do a little bit of rotation. So a couple of thread the needles on each side. So from here, guys, I'm going to leave my right hand on the floor, take my left hand underneath the armpit and thread it all the way through, bending my right arm to allow myself to get my shoulder close to the floor. And then I'll take that left hand up and my gaze will follow the hand. And we're just going to work through that a few times. So we're just working the spine through a little bit of rotation as well. The muscles in the upper back and mid back. So don't worry about how many reps you're doing here, guys. Just a couple of these on each side. All right, so finishing the one you're on and then over to the other side. Whilst you guys do that, I'm just taking my jumper off. But over to the other side, guys. So just rotating one way and then pulling that hand up to the sky. And just notice if it feels quite tight. Alrighty, and then finishing the one that you're on there, guys, and then from hands and knees, just our usual hip circle, so knee to elbow, do a nice big circle one way, and then coming back the other way. So let's just limber ourselves through there, big circle one way, and then back the other way. So I do personally like us to be nice and warm before we get into any strong stretches. I think it really helps to make sure those joint capsules are kind of lubricated a little bit. So that's why I'm just going through all these rotations to get us started. All right, so just perhaps finishing the circle that you're on and then over to the other side, so knee to elbow, draw a nice big circle, and we'll just work our way through a few of those. And then for those who have joined the class before, you'll know we do, so sometimes I do a little bit of a yoga kind of like mini flow thing just to sort of get us a bit more warmed up. So we're going to go through that again. What it will look like, guys, and if you just finish the circle you're on, what it will look like, if you have a quick look here, is we'll just go into a downward facing dog. We're going to limber a little, stretching out our calves. You'll then take one leg up to the sky. You'll then pull that knee to your chest and step through into a lunge and then sink down into your hip flexor. We will then straighten the front leg, get a little bit of a hamstring stretch, back into a lunge, leg will go back to the sky, okay? Now this will just get your body kind of warm, ready to stretch, all right? None of the stretches need to be too strong. Like when we do the hamstring stretch, you don't have to make it super straight, the front leg, okay? So let's just come into a downward facing dog. So from here, you're just gonna come into this position. Now my knees are soft here and I'm pressing my armpits back towards my thighs. And then like you're on a stepping machine at the gym, you're just gonna do a little heel down and lift the other heel up. So I'm just pushing one heel down and the other heel up. And I'm just limbering through the calves mostly here. So you just start to notice a little bit of calf stretch as you press that heel down towards the floor. And we'll just work through a couple more of those. Now, if you listen carefully to the cues as I take you through this the sequence, guys, you should be able to follow along fairly easily, okay? So from here, let's just settle back into that downward facing dog. The heels can be lifted slightly. You're going to take your right leg up to the sky, so we're in single leg downward dog. From here, start to rock your shoulders forwards over your hands and pull your knee towards your chest. Then step that right leg through and come up into a high lunge position so you sink your back hip down towards the floor, okay? From here, bring your hands either side of your front leg. Straighten your front leg, get a little bit of a hamstring stretch. Now notice it doesn't need to be super straight. Take a breath or so here. And then from there, just sink that leg back down into the lunge. And then from there, press through the floor and take your right leg back to the sky. That's one rep on that side, okay? Let's pull your shoulders forwards over your hands, knee to chest, step through into a lunge, come to a high lunge and really sink into your back hip flexor. Bring your hands to the floor, straighten your front leg, take a breath. And then bend the knee again. Press through the hands and take your leg back to the single leg dog again. We have one more on that side. So rock forwards, knee to chest, step through. Sweep your hands up overhead, sinking down into that back hip flexor, finding a bit of balance as well. Hands Hands to the floor, straighten your front leg, a little bit of a hamstring stretch, doesn't need to be too strong. Sink back into your lunge, push through the floor, and back to your single leg dog. All right, bring that leg back to the floor, knees to the floor, and then just press back into child's pose for a moment, and just stretch out your lower back a little bit. All right, guys, we'll then pop back up into that downward facing dog again, and then you're going to take your left leg now up to the sky. Okay, from here, rock your shoulders forwards, pull your knee towards your chest and step through into your lunge position, sinking your back hip down, finding a stretch into your hip flexor, hands to the floor, straighten the front leg. Take a breath. And then sink back into the lunge, sweep your hands, push through the floor. That's a different sequence. Take the leg back to the sky. And then again, guys, we're going to rock forwards, knee to chest, step through, sweeping up overhead into your lunge, sinking your hip down, hands to the floor, straighten your front leg, take a breath. Sink back into the lunge and then press through the floor, leg back to the sky. We have one more round here. Rock forwards, knee to chest, step through, sweeping the hands up overhead. And then again, guys, hands to the floor, straighten your front leg. Bend the knee, sink down, push through the floor, leg back to the sky, and then bring that leg to the floor. And one more time, just pressing back through child's pose. Awesome work. All right, so from there, guys, let's now just come into our frog position. So nice wide knees, elbows to the floor, just rocking forwards and backwards to start, and then we will get into our stronger stretches from here, starting with our frog, all right? So just gently rocking forwards and backwards. So that little sequence should have warmed you up a little bit and feel a bit more ready to stretch now. So if you would like to, you can just work through that rotation a little just to begin with. I'm just limbering into this stretch to start. All right, so from there, let's just settle back into your frog stretch. Nice wide knees, ankles in line with the knees. And I just want you to take a couple of rounds of breath here. So take a really nice deep breath in. And as you exhale, just allow yourself to be in that stretch to start. If you would like a stronger stretch, then you can just take your hand underneath and just push your knees out a little bit wider, okay? So you can do that if you like, and then just breathing into it. So as always, we'll just work through this breath, have a bit of a passive stretch, and then we will do our contractions then. So you guys should know the drill contraction will be just to press the knees through the floor. So let's just, before we do the contraction, just check your alignment. So just check that the knees are in line with the hips, ankles are nice and wide as well. And now I want you to squeeze the floor with your knees. So getting ready and off we go, pressing down for 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. And then use your hands to scoop your knees out a bit wider. Cassie, what are you laughing at? I can tell. Is it something to do with him not being uncomfortable in that position? Why do I know that? I don't know why I know that. I can just tell. All right. And again, guys, let's squeeze through the floor for 10. It's a very vulnerable position to be in. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Taking a breath, guys. If you want to open up those knees a little bit more, then go for it. We'll have about 10 or 20 seconds here, just a couple of rounds of breath. Nice one. All right. So guys, finish the round of breath you're on. Just roll forwards onto your belly and slide your legs together and then press yourself back through child's pose. So just stretch out that lower back again. All right. So what we are going to do, guys, is just go through, again, kind of limber into the actual stretch. So you're going to sit into that frog position now, arms out in front, and we'll just work our way through some 90-90 transitions. We'll just do a few of these. I will then get you to stop and come into the passive stretch on one side without contraction. We'll then go over to the other side. We'll do the other side without contraction, okay? So let's start with our 90-90 transition. So essentially,
coming to the exact same position you're just in on the floor, but now you're on your bum, okay? So the knees are wide and you're pulling them open. And then you're just going to drop your knees over to one side and then pull through that stretch and transition to the other side. So we're just going to work our way through about 60 seconds of this, and then I'll get you to go to one side and just work there through the stretch. So just keep working, transitioning one side and the other. Now, if you can't sit up and it's quite challenging, you can place the hands on the floor behind you and push through the floor. And you're just going to keep going one side and then the other side. Nice, guys. So try and pull into the strongest stretch you can. All right, just a couple more of these. And just have a think about how your hips are feeling today. And what we're going to do, guys, is that if you are aware, and I do encourage, because you'll usually do your easiest side first. Maybe go to what feels like your tightest side first. And then you're going to just rotate in the direction of that front leg. So I'm just over to one side. Now, before you come into the stretch, just check your angles here. Check that so for me, my right knee is directly in front of my right hip. Got a 90-degree angle here, and then 90 degrees on the back leg too, okay? And then from here, I'm going to rotate my torso in the direction of my front leg, and then just pull myself forwards into this stretch on glute performance, all right? So just finding yourself that stretch into your butt cheek, okay? Now, once you're here, you can kind of move your chest towards your foot, towards your knee, and just decide, all right, which position gives you the best stretch. Try not to avoid that tight line, yeah? And once you've found it, just take a couple of breaths again into that position. So just nice deep inhale. And as you exhale, just draw your forehead forwards into that stretch. Okay, so we're just pulling ourselves into that stretch. Couple of rounds of breath. All right, so the contraction here, guys, remember, is going to be to squeeze this front leg. You're going to push it down and kick it forwards through the floor. Okay, so you're kicking it away from you. So getting ready, let's squeeze the leg and then push it forwards through the floor for 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Stop. Take a nice deep breath in. And exhale, draw yourself a little deeper there into that stretch. All right, we're just going to do one more of those. So squeeze the leg and push for 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Stop, take a breath. And pull yourself into that stretch a little more. And just have another round or two of breath here. All right, so from there, guys, just start to lift your chest up, transition yourself over to the other side. And so the same setup. So just check your angles first. So look for the right angle, knee in front of the hip. Rotate your torso in the direction of the leg. Pull yourself forwards, explore that line of stretch. Okay, so decide which position gives you the best stretch into your butt cheek, basically. And then from there, just take a few breaths, breathing in, and as you exhale, draw your forehead forwards into that deepest stretch. We'll just work our way through a few breaths before we contract. All right, so let's now squeeze that front leg and push it down and kick it away. Off we go for 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Stop. Take a nice deep breath in. And as you exhale, draw yourself down into that stretch, increasing the stretch into your butt cheek. All right, we've got one more, guys. So flex the foot and push down and away for 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4,
3, 2, and 1. Again, breathe and increase that stretch. All right, so let's just finish the round of breath you're on. Lift your chest up, and then from there, guys, just make your way to a high kneeling position and just circle off the hips a couple of times. One way and then back the other way. All right, so what I want us to do is actually limber through our spine because we're going to do some seated Pike stuff and I like us to loosen off the spine and the lower back a little bit. So we'll do 2 things at the wall. The first will be our spine pills, but then we're going to do a passive lower back stretch. If you have a yoga block, guys, I just want you to have it handy because after we do the spine pills, we'll then do the stretch using the yoga block that some of you may have done with me before. So you guys should know the drill, but basically we come to that kind of what looks like a bit of a wall sit. So you can just watch me if you need to start. Back against the wall. You're going to posteriorly tilt your pelvis, press the lower back into the wall. We're going to be slowly peeling off and then slowly coming down. And then I'll show you what we're going to do with the yoga block. Okay, so let's find yourself a little space up against a wall. Come to what feels like a wall, kind of almost a wall sit, but not quite, yeah? And then you're going to tuck your tail under. Now close your eyes for this. Put your head and shoulders against the wall. And then slowly peel your vertebra one at a time off the wall. I'm kind of rushing it for the demo. And then once you get up onto your head and sort of shoulders, then try and layer one vertebra at a time back onto the wall really slowly, okay? And just work through that. We're going to have sort of 90 seconds here, just peeling up and then coming down, all right? So when you're ready, you should have started already. So just working through that, guys, really focusing on that posterior tilt, tucking the tail, going kind of a slow. In this one, it's almost like less reps is better because it means you're going a lot slower. And I do ask you to close your eyes because you can really focus in what you're feeling. Nice, guys. So just peeling one vertebra at a time off the wall. Nice. So, guys, remembering to breathe too. You will feel your abs kicking in here. Nice one. So guys, we've got about 30 seconds left. So maybe you want to go to the little sticky spot in the spine that feels kind of jammed up. You've got last 15 seconds just working into that. Last 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Awesome. All right, so maybe give your legs a little rest. So just stand up and shake them off a bit. All right, so from there, guys, we're going to step out from the wall. So the idea with this one is that we're using the wall and the block to remove any muscular effort from this position, okay? Because if I kind of am standing upright, I'm still having to use effort to hold myself there, right? So what I want you to do is lean into the wall. So your feet go out, legs are almost straight, maybe unlock the knees. The yoga block, you kind of wedge it right up into that hip crease and almost lift your belly up and over, your ribs up and over, and then you'll forward fold and you'll just hang your soft knees into that position. So there shouldn't really be any muscular effort holding you in position, okay? So again, if the wall's behind me, I'd be resting on the wall, I'd pop that in here, I'd come up and over and I'd be hanging there, okay? And we're just gonna breathe, it's completely passive, just breathing into the lower back, okay? Now, if I'm doing this because I wanna come into a bit of a pike and I think it helps just to soften through the lower back, but if you have any lower back issues, then this is quite a nice one to do throughout the day, perhaps, especially if when you sit at a desk all day, you get quite jammy in the back. We tend to get locked into like a lumbar extension or a slight anterior tilt. Now, I think generally, from my experience, girls are worse at this than boys. So they get locked like this with their butt out, right? But
we're just going to come forwards and then try and go the other way with the lumbar spine. So we're going into flexion through the lumbar back, but very, very passively, okay? So just taking a few nice deep breaths into that position, literally just hanging down there. So the lower back is relaxing. Nice, guys. So just breathing there. You've got about 30 seconds left. Nice. Maybe one more nice deep inhale, exhale to that lower back. Last 3, 2, and 1. Rolling yourself up and out of there. All right, so for today, before we come into a seated pike, we are just going to have a hamstring stretch, just quite a fairly, quick hamstring stretch, I suppose, not changing angles or anything. So imagine the walls here. I'm just doing this so you can see, but imagine the wall is in front of me, fingertips on the wall, I'm coming forwards into this position. Okay, so the back knee's under the hip. We'll just do a couple of contractions there, pull forward. Once we've done that at each side, we'll then come into our seated pike. Okay, so guys, let's find yourself a space against the wall. Remember, when we do this, you probably need something soft under your back knee. Okay, and then my back knee's directly underneath my back hip. Ball of the foot is up onto the wall. From here, I want you to wrap your back hip forward. So you're squaring your hips and you're moving your forehead forwards towards the wall. So we're getting just our basic hamstring stretch. So just taking those nice deep breaths in. We'll have about probably 45 seconds here before we contract. So just take a nice deep inhale, and as you exhale, your forehead goes towards the wall. And just check in with your hips, wrap your back hip forwards to square your hips. Those who are quite flexible, anteriorly tilting your pelvis in this position will increase the stretch. And those who are got any lower back issues, or if you're quite tight, you do not have to straighten that leg all the way out, guys. You get a really decent stretch into the belly of the hamstring with the knee a little bit bent. So just breathing into it. All right, so we're going to do a contraction, guys. We're going to hamstring curl your heel through the floor. So getting ready, and off we go for 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Stop, take a nice deep breath in and just move your head towards the wall. All right, and again, guys, let's hamstring curl. Off we go for 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. And again, take a breath, squaring the hips, head moves towards the wall. Just finishing the round of breath that you're on here, guys, bending that knee, coming out of there. If you want to do a couple of circles in the hips through kneeling, then go for it. And then we're going to change over to the other side. So we're just setting up our hamstring stretch now on the other side. You know what everyone's going to love when you come back and we can use the stall bars to stretch. Oh, who misses the stall bars? All right, so guys, let's go. It's like my favorite stretch, lateral flexion. All right, so guys, let's go into the hamstring on the other side. I say that, but then I say that about every stretch, don't I? Oh, this is my favorite stretch every time. All right. So let's just take a few rounds of breath, guys, into that position. So back knee underneath the hip, ball of the foot up onto the wall. So keep squaring the hips, remember. So you wrap your back hip forwards. And like I said before, those who, if you anteriorly tilt your pelvis, you'll get a bit of a stronger stretch. All right, so our contraction, guys, we're going to hamstring the curl the heel. So getting ready and off we go for 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Stop, take a breath, square the hips. And again, guys, let's go. Hamstring curl for 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Take a nice deep breath in, squaring the hips, moving forwards. And then when you're ready, guys, slowly coming out of there. All right, so guys, we're now going to go to a seated pike on the floor. So most of you should know what that is. So we're just going to come into this position. And again, it's like when we do our front splits as well, is I don't like you to rush into the position, okay? I like you to just try and be in the best position you can be in, but without trying to rush to get the legs straight. So when I say best position here, I want your belly on your thighs. So you bend your knees and your belly's on your thighs, all right? You hold the outsides of your feet and then you just walk your bum away. We're trying to never get to the point where the belly lifts off the thighs, okay? So even if that's just here, breathing into it, all right? So we're gonna have about 90 seconds just working through that position. So belly on the thighs, walking out bum, and I'll just ask you to pause and breathe. It's kind of up to you to start to decide, all right, where do I need to stop and have a breath here? All right, so let's set that up. Belly on the thighs, hold the outside of the feet. And then from there, just take some nice deep breaths. And I know it sounds silly, but breathe into your lower back. So deep breath in. And as you exhale, just try and soften your lower back and just start to walk your bum away from your feet. And then once you find a bit of a stretch, and some of you are going to notice it's predominantly hamstrings, others might really feel the lower back stretching here. You're just going to pause in the stretch and breathe. And then you go again. Nice deep breath in, walking the bum away, and just keep slowly, incrementally increasing that stretch, walking the bum out. Nice, guys. So what I'm going to do is give you another 40 seconds or so. So you might just want to go now to the position that you think is your best seated pike for today and just breathe into that position. So just breathing there. Now, do not be in a hurry to straighten your legs. Last 20 seconds, just nice deep breaths in and out. Last 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Let's slowly come out of there. Nice, guys. Now, after that one, I would like you to stand up and have a little bit of a walk around, okay? So maybe make your way to standing and walking around. We are going to come to hip flexor stretch up against the wall, and you are going to, if you have a chair, I do like us to use the chair, okay? So you guys should know the drill. The chair is there just to help us relax into it. So when you're ready, guys, let's grab our chair. Now, if you don't have a chair or you don't want to use it, that's totally fine. You can just come into hip flexor stretch with the hands on the floor, okay? I personally prefer to have the chair there so I can rest my elbows and just allow myself to be more relaxed in this position, okay? So we'll just set that up when you're ready. So elbows on the chair or hands on the floor. Maybe the hands are on a couple of yoga blocks, whatever's comfortable. Guys, now you should know that I've got my back toe, my heel kind of folded up towards my butt, my back toe on the wall, but we're not in the quad stretch, we're in the hip flexor stretch. So my back hip is pressing towards the floor. I'm not in an upright position that would be more quad. And then from there, I just check that my front foot's slightly ahead of the front knee. And you just take those nice deep breaths in and just sink your back hip down towards the floor. So just having that passive stretch, nice deep inhale. And as you exhale, just allow your back hip to push towards the floor. You might want to squeeze your butt cheek on that side and push your hip down, yeah? We'll just breathe through it a few times. So when we get to our contractions in a moment, the first contraction is going to be to pull your back knee through the floor towards your chest. The second contraction is going to be to push the wall over with your foot. In both of the contractions, guys, please make sure that you don't let your hips lift as you contract, because you'll kind of want to do that, all right? So getting ready, let's take one more nice deep inhale, exhale all together. As you breathe out, really push that back hip down into the stretch. Now try and hold that position, and now we're going to pull our back knee forwards through the floor. So off we go for 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Stop. Take an inhale. And exhale, sink your back hip down. Second contraction, guys, is to push the wall over with your foot. All right, so getting ready, don't let the hips lift. Let's press back for 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Stop. Take a nice deep breath in. And again, sinking your back hip down towards the floor. And we'll just do 1 or 2 breaths here. All right, so from there, just slowly start to shift your hips backwards, coming out of that position. You might want to stand up, or even just from kneeling, do a couple of circles. Maybe you want to straighten that back leg out. And then we'll set ourselves up on the other side when you're ready. So ball of the foot is up against the wall. Make sure you've got some padding underneath that back knee. And then you're sinking your back hip down towards the floor, checking in with the front foot to make sure it's slightly ahead of that front knee. And a lot of you in this position as well will notice that you get like an adductor and a hamstring stretch on the front leg. Now, it's not necessarily a bad thing. It possibly could detract a little from what we're trying to achieve, which is the hip flexor stretch on the back. But at the end of the day, guys, when you come into these positions, whatever needs to stretch is going to stretch, if that makes sense. So it's not bad that if we're getting a bit of a adductor and hamstring stretch on the front. Just means that tissue is probably quite tight for you. All right, so just take some nice deep breaths in. And as you exhale, just sink that back hip down towards the floor. It's also one of the reasons I do the adductor and the hamstring stretch before I do the hip flexor stretch, is just to try and loosen off this tissue as best we can to allow ourselves to focus on the back hip if we can. So just maybe 1 or 2 more breaths, remembering the first contraction is going to be to pull your back knee forward. Second contraction will be to push the wall over. All right, so getting ready. Let's drag your knee through the floor for 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Pause, take a breath. And exhale, squeeze your butt cheek, push your hip down. Alrighty, second contraction, we're going to push the wall over. Remember, do not let your hips lift as you do it. So off we go for 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Take a nice deep breath in and sinking your hip down. Do you know what? I think I've been spending too much time coaching with Kat, because I say my 3 when I count, like Kat does. I just feel like a cat when I say it. 3. It reminds me exactly of her every time I say it. Nice, guys. All right. And let's slowly, just random fact there. slowly come out of that position. Go to either kneeling, guys, or maybe stand up. A little bit of a hip circles off, yeah? All right, so if you've got the chair or whatever it is you're using, we will use that in a moment for a bit of an upper body stretch as well. But what I'd quite like us to do is let's perhaps come to the wall, and we're just going to do a bit of a lateral flexion here, okay? So the wall can kind of just help prop you up. It doesn't have to be done with the back against the wall, okay? But what I would like you to do is if you need to, there's a couple of options here. You can grab a yoga block and pop your elbow onto a yoga block. You can leave your hand on the floor, or you can come all the way down to elbow on the floor, and you're reaching up and over. Okay, now once you're in this position, you can just roll your chest forwards and back and just explore that line. I think the wall just helps us to feel like we keep everything kind of square and even. I'm really trying to anchor down through this opposite hip. So imagine when you do this, that because my left arm's on top, I'm basically trying to create as much length from my left fingertips all the way down to my left hip. And I'm trying to find the best line of stretch. Now, it's not going to be super strong. It's not like us stretching on the store bars, okay? Because we haven't got that tension. But if you really, really lengthen out of those top fingertips and then pause in the position that you think gives you the best stretch, and just take a nice deep breath into that side rib cage. So for me, this one isn't about getting like a massively strong stretch, but imagine and visualize that you're creating space through these ribs and you're making yourself longer, okay? So we're just creating space in the body and really lengthening out down that lateral line. And once you're there, just pause and breathe. We don't need to make it anything more than this, just breathing into it. Nice deep inhale. And exhale, just reach. We'll just have another 15 seconds or so here, just breathing into that position. Deep breath in, and as you exhale. So by reaching, I mean just check in as well at the top elbow isn't bent, okay? Because that's not going to create the length we need. You really want to lock out the elbow and reach on a diagonal line. Last 3, 2, and 1. Coming down. Just roll that shoulder off. And then if you're using the yoga block on the elbow, you'll just change it over to the other side. Either it's hand on the floor, elbow to the block, or elbow to the floor. All right, and then once we're there, we're reaching up and over. And again, we're just taking some nice deep breaths into that position, creating as much space from hip to fingertips as possible. Roll your chest a little bit forwards, perhaps a little bit back. Just decide which position here for today feels the best. And then pause there and breathe into it. So again, just visualize yourself creating space in and amongst those ribs, getting a little bit longer. You can get quite compressed just sitting down all day. So we're just creating more length here. A little bit of lateral flexion of your spine. Last 10 to 15 seconds, breathing into it. All right, so just finishing the breath you're on, come down from there. If you want to roll your shoulder off a couple of times, you can. Now today we're going to open our chest on the wall. Last week I think we did it on the bench on it from a quadruped position. So let's just come to this. I'm going to give a few options, guys, because people might prefer different things, all right? So option number 1, which is probably the one I will do, is just have the arms straight. If you can see, I've got a straight arm here. That's a bit annoying, that thing, isn't it? I've got a straight arm here, guys, on sort of 45 degrees, and then I unlock my elbow and I'm pressing into this stretch. Now, I know most of you know that, all right? If you have a door frame and you prefer the bent arm version, take the forearm up against the door frame and open the chest that way. It's all kind of similar, they're slightly different. Most of you have done this enough times to know which one you probably prefer to do, okay? So I'm going to go with the 45 degrees straight arm, okay? Now, this can get a little pinchy into the elbow for some of us. So that's why I suggest that we unlock that elbow. And now, so I've got my right hand up onto the wall. I have about 45-degree angle with my arm. And I'm pushing my right shoulder forwards and my right armpit towards the wall, pulling my left shoulder back. Now, it's very similar if you have the door frame version with the bent arm and the forearm up against the door frame, okay? All you've got to imagine is that you're opening your chest, all right? And then you're breathing into that stretch. So take a really nice deep breath in, and that in itself should increase the stretch into that tissue on the anterior line there. So just breathe a few more times. Now, contractions. If you're in the one that I'm in, I'm going to sweep my arm like on 45 degrees down through the wall, okay? If you're in the door frame one with the bent arm, you just press forwards into it and then relax, okay? So you can shift. All right, so getting ready and contract. Off we go for 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Take a nice deep breath in and increase the stretch, pulling the outside shoulder back. We'll go one more of those. Off we go, pressing through the wall for 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Take an inhale. Exhale, open up the chest a little if you can. All right, and then from there, guys, just slowly ease the pressure out of that stretch. Roll your shoulder a couple of times. Again, good bang for buck here, because when we sit at a desk all day, we just need to open that front line up. Go over to the other side, guys. So you're going to take that 45 degrees. You're going to press your shoulder forwards, pull your other shoulder back, and we're just getting that passive stretch to start with. If you're not doing that one, you're on the door frame, the elbow at a right angle essentially, and we're just opening our chest. We're just working into the breath there. A couple of rounds of breath, just pressing forward with that shoulder, pulling the other shoulder back. Now we're either going to sweep the arm or press into the forearm when we do the contraction. All right, so getting ready, and off we go for 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Pause, take an inhale. And exhale, open. We got one more, guys. So getting ready, and off we go for 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Pause, take a nice deep breath in. And exhale. Open up the chest. Maybe another breath or two in this position. All right, and then just slowly back out of there. Roll that shoulder a couple of times. So guys, now we're going to use a chair or a bench. I'm going to again give some options for this. So probably 3 different options, just depending on what you want to do, all right? So I'll just quickly look at them. Option number 1 is just going to be a straight arm stretch and cat. So this shoulder flexion here, pushing up and down. Option number 2 is to go like this with the hands, flare your elbows out, pop your hands onto your upper back and just push your armpits down towards the floor, okay, sucking in the belly button. Option number 3 is to go with the yoga block, like the butcher's block one, okay, with the yoga block between the wrists. You guys should know this, elbows onto the bench, and then pressing down through that stretch, okay? What we're going to do, whichever one you're doing, we're just going to work like passively for about 60 seconds or so. And I say passive, but especially in the stretching cat, you might want to limber, okay? So I'm going to give you these options, all right? So you can choose. All of them are working essentially shoulder flexion and thoracic extension. Some of them, especially the butcher's block, will get a bit more tricep for you, okay? So you can choose whichever one you would like. I'm probably going to go with the middle one with the hands crossed across my back. So either, again, knees under the hips, stretching cat, elbows wide, crossing the hands onto your upper back, or yoga block between the wrists into your butcher's block. You can choose. Now, whichever one you're in, guys, I want you to think about sucking in your belly button. So it feels almost like a posterior pelvic tilt. And you're just pressing armpits down towards the floor, and you're trying to just open up through the upper back and the shoulders, rather than using your lower back to press into this. Now, you may want to just breathe and hold in the stretch.
especially in the stretch and cat, you might just want to come in and out. Now you can do that in all of them, is come in and out. You might just not notice as much movement in the elbow versions. So up to you, and just take a few rounds of breath here. Nice deep breath in. Exhale, press down, open up the chest, open up the armpits. All right, so you might just think about finishing the round of breath that you're on. Slowly come up and out of that. Roll your shoulders a couple of times, nice big circles. One way. And then back the other way. All right, so you can ditch the chair now, kind of done with that. And then we're going to go capsule stretch on the floor. So you guys should know, we start on our back with the arms out to the side, and then just choose a side and roll over that arm, okay? I'm not going to come into this one just because it squishes my microphone. So just rolling into that stretch.